Chapter 4: Sustainable Goals and Personal Growth. Childhood Dreams and Aspirations. I was the first Japanese to attract potential sponsors, making me the first professional fighting game player in Japan. During my time as a caretaker, I honestly didn't imagine for even a second that this day would come. Upon becoming a pro gamer, I quit my job at the nursing home. It wasn't the kind of job you could properly do part-time. My last day of work was quite an emotional experience. I was grateful for my time there, hearing the residents' thank yous and soothing, and it was a rich year and a half that taught me a lot about life and values. Most importantly, it allowed me the time to regain the mental balance I needed to focus on games again. Looking back, my whole life has centered on games. They've consistently been the keenest interest, and likely always will be. This devotion has caused me anguish, no doubt. Throughout junior and senior high school graduation, I was filled with self-reproach for only having games. Yet even so, something felt amiss as I watched my classmates choose college and jobs. It amazed me how they could decide their futures in such a limited period. I wondered how they could already know what they wanted to do for the rest of their lives. Recently, I met someone about to graduate university and asked if he had a job lined up. "Yeah, it's exactly the job I wanted," he said without pause. I couldn't imagine feeling that way with such certainty. What did he like about the job? How many people end up in a profession they truly like? My guess is that most people don't put that much serious thought into it. Back in elementary school, when our teachers gave us a list of professions and asked us what we wanted to be when we grew up, I was the kid that just didn't get it. I had no idea, and resented being asked to choose from such a short list of options, none of which felt appealing. At our age, teachers expected us to pick things like baseball player, researcher, or astronaut. I'd been told I could be anything I wanted, so I wondered why explorer wasn't on the list. Not only did I want more options, I wanted to know how I was supposed to get these jobs. Unable to answer within the given time, I wound up just turning in a blank sheet. When asked the same thing in high school, I was the only one unable to choose. Some of my other classmates seemed to feel the same, but in the end, they all picked a career from the short list. Maybe they were railroaded into their decisions, or they were just picking at random. Maybe none of them even considered alternatives like explorer. In any case, I can't imagine them agonizing like I did. They seemed to have resigned themselves to fate. My teachers foisted these narrow-minded dreams upon us as if other goals were unworthy. It made me sick. Games were everything to me, but the feeling was that I would have to set them aside for more mature things. As a result, I don't have many good memories from my student years. I still can't forget how helpless I felt at being pigeonholed into a future from such a short list. Did I really have to make this decision now and commit to it? Was I being too picky or apathetic? Or just a failure? Regardless, I was disappointed that the world was such a dull place and irritated that Japan only allowed children to choose adult-approved careers. Clearly, I didn't get along with my teachers at school. They weren't going to treat me as an individual. My homeroom teacher was the worst of them all. His go-to phrase was always, "Just study." I couldn't tell if he was being serious or took us all for fools. If he genuinely thought that, he was going to have to tell me why studying was so important. Of course, none of my teachers ever went that far. No doubt, this hostility was mutual. I never took adults at their word and always demanded more than they offered. Considering the way Japanese classrooms are run, I'm sure that they always insisted on knowing the reason for everything must have been even more trying for them than dealing with the real delinquents. I'm sure I frustrated my teachers who thought it rather presumptuous of me to always be questioning them like that. You don't need a dream. As someone who grew up without any real aspirations in the normal sense, I think that regardless of your process in choosing your life goals, what's important is to put all your energy into what's right in front of you. I used to think that games were all I had, but my thinking has since changed. Games triggered my personal growth, and for that I am grateful and intend to continue playing for as long as I can stay competitive. However, I'm no longer as fixated as I once was. When the day comes that I lose my edge and I don't notice myself growing any further, I'll give up gaming with no regrets. I love games more than anything, but I don't need them like I once did. Conversely, you can grow to like a job you throw your all into, even if you don't like it at first. You can also find joy outside of work. Thus, I believe that even in the absence of specific dreams or aspirations, nothing bad can come from giving your best shot at whatever lies in front of you. Don't be like me as a kid and limit your limited options. Find the value in what's around you and immerse yourself in it. Get creative and exert some effort. And I'm sure that you'll eventually have new ideas that help you feel more positive about things. Say that after trying something for 3 years, you find you don't like it and realize that you never will. Perfect. That's a wonderful discovery. Don't just sit there and worry about what you want to do, waiting for your situation to change. Take action. If you act instead of slacking off, the way forward is bound to reveal itself, little by little. The joy of having something you love. If you can fully direct your feelings towards something, count yourself lucky. Before any talk of talent or drive, if you love what you're doing more than anything, you are truly blessed. Not everyone finds that something, especially at a young age. I used to be bewildered by people who play fighting games half-heartedly. Now I realize that people have different approaches to things, that those like me who put everything they've got into games are the exception, and most people just want to unwind and have fun. It wasn't until recently that I finally admitted that not everyone has to want it as badly as I do. I'm different from other people, and that's okay. It's taken many, many years for me to see the differences are what make life interesting. Since I've acknowledged it, I've been able to view myself much more objectively, how I've improved, and where I still need work. Similarly, I can now see others' strengths and accept their flaws. My perspective has greatly broadened since going pro. I now see that without games, I would have been tremendously lazy. I might not have applied myself to anything. When I was working at the nursing home, I felt like something was missing. I felt guilty for diverting my energy towards something I didn't truly enjoy. I tried my best, but I couldn't seem to pour myself into it with the passion I felt for games. When I returned to the arcade and rediscovered myself, the knot of feelings and concerns within me unraveled, and I was reunited with the games that I loved. Upon returning to gaming after my hiatus, I realized that games are something I love, and not everyone has a calling like that. I will be eternally grateful for that joy. I'm a different person when I play games, animated and glowing with life. Spreading yourself too thin. While I always envied the grand dreams of others, I never found my own. I thus have no intentions of telling you to dream big or demanding that you dream at all. True, becoming a pro gamer did free of me much of suffering, but I never considered it a dream come true. It's more of a relief from the pressure I felt, the criticism for doing what I loved. No one ever flat out told me to quit games, but I sensed a constant, unspoken sentiment that I was wasting my life. Even if they didn't approve, I at least wanted everyone to let me play my games in peace. Some people are surprisingly unhappy when they achieve the life they envision for themselves, but not me. Focusing on games as a pro is pure bliss. I couldn't imagine a better life. As mentioned before, I get endless joy out of growing daily and making it a point to improve myself every day. The life I thought I wanted turned out to be just one of turmoil. I thought I was supposed to find a goal that led to happiness, then buckle down, take painstaking steps to achieve it. I thought that was how successful people lived, but I eventually realized that such a life is just exhausting. It's not for me anymore. What I was lacking was a clear direction. I was convinced I was the best in Japan at 14 and became world champion at 17, and then I turned around and quit. I switched over to Mahjong and got within sight of the top, but remained unhappy. Experiencing these highs and lows attuned me to the subtle daily joys of life. I finally found my pace. Take things easy and don't spread myself too thin, but fully apply myself within my means. It may sound monotonous, but I get to experience constant change, truly enjoying my evolution and getting the utmost out of each day. I never set arbitrary objectives or deadlines for myself. I just creep forward with my eyes straight ahead. Being praised as a god of fighting games, winning the world championship, getting my name in the Guinness Book of Records. All are insignificant to me. Sure, certain awards may have value in other fields. Nevertheless, no matter how great the award, it's easy to question whether winning equates to success if if you can't repeat it the following year. Forget all that. Live life at your own pace and grow every day, and the accolades will naturally follow. This is a much more reasonable and sustainable lifestyle. Going for 4. As a youth, I didn't know the real meaning of effort and poorly directed my energy more than once. Capcom periodically holds official tournaments, 3 of which I won in a row. At 15 for Darkstalkers 3, at 17 for Street Fighter Alpha 3, and at 19 for Capcom vs SNK. The official tournaments are always single elimination. The format was designed to make repeated wins difficult, so naturally they expected someone new to win each time. Luck played a part, but everyone acknowledged my hat trick is quite an achievement. That 3rd win cast me as an elite among the elite. People were saying how I was on a whole other level. As the next tournament approached, I fixated on a 4th victory. I put myself under incredible pressure. I hadn't felt much pressure to win before, but this time it was intense. I started getting stomach pains as the tournament approached. I couldn't eat a thing and my weight plummeted. I must have been 10 kilos lighter than I am now. It wasn't a state conducive to winning. Misattributing my diminished performance to a lack of effort, I decided that I needed to push myself harder. Frankly, I pushed myself beyond my limits. I spent most of my waking hours playing and my body suffered. I couldn't keep down anything but udon noodles. Not hungry, I figured I might as well just skip meals altogether and didn't eat at all on some days. My mental state spiraled downward to the point where normal conversation became impossible. I was nasty with everyone, even my best friends. As tightly wound as I was, I didn't have the capacity to deal with people. Of course, I lost. I placed in the top 8 before the pressure got the best of me. That I even made it that far is a testament to my tenacity, and when the tournament ended, I was shocked and despondent. I thought I was losing it. Had I really lost, or was I dreaming? All that effort and nothing to show for it. At the award ceremony, I sat in a stupor, clutching my quarterfinalist award as I watched the finalists on the podium. Feeling hollow when it was all over, I reflected on what had transpired. I'd shown myself that it was possible to overdo it, and that some things can't be overcome by working harder. With my win streak at an end, I distanced myself from games for about half a year and even contemplated totally quitting. Considering my previous dedication, not touching games for 6 months was a pretty big deal. In retrospect, I'm glad I didn't win that tournament. If I had, I'd have convinced myself that such misguided efforts were the way to win. Eventually, I'd have paid for it, in a way that might have ended my career. Working yourself to the point where you lose your appetite and can't sleep is simply foolish. After a half-year hiatus, I had finally recovered and saw this colossal blunder for what it was. Thinking back, I recalled people asking me for advice and replying that they just weren't trying hard enough. In my frame of mind at the time, that seemed the obvious answer. I'd mistakenly equated productive effort with reckless devotion, getting ahead of meaningless exertion. It's a shame I had to learn my lesson in a national tournament, but it's a valuable one nonetheless. That trying your hardest doesn't guarantee victory, and that there are positive and negative ways to apply effort. Never work until it hurts. Losing at my 4th championship attempt taught me that true effort does not mean working until it hurts. For whatever illogical reasoning, I had mistakenly self-inflicted pain as being the key to growth. The tournament showed me, however, that reckless mismanaging of your time and taking on too much at once just wears you down. The wrong kind of effort also leads to obsession. It warps your mind, making you think that hard work alone is deserving of success. Say you're running an obstacle course and there's a sturdy wall between you and your goal. Instead of bloodying your knuckles by punching at it, approach the problem from a different angle and you're bound to find a way past. If you look around, maybe there's a ladder nearby or a knob somewhere that opens the door. Sometimes it seems like you can just keep punching your way through the maze on pure willpower alone, but there are some walls that your fists won't dent. Your own ability is one such wall. When you come up against it, don't despair. Use your head. If you can't knock it down, look for alternative solutions. You might not even have to go through it. Maybe there's a way around. It takes astounding effort and drastic changes in thinking to overcome the wall of your own ability. Simply building experience without thinking about what you're doing is not effort. Actually, since thinking is the hard part, in a sense you're taking the easy way out, Cutting out the thinking is just aimless flailing. If working so hard that you sacrifice your health leads to winning, well, at least you got that. Wind up like I did and you have nothing to show for it, however, and the damage will be immeasurable. It might leave you with no way forward. There's nothing good about that kind of effort. When I was taking those 6 months off, my friends invited me out to the arcades numerous times before I finally acquiesced. When I first re-entered that Shinjuku arcade, I was amazed at how easy it was to win. I was definitely stronger than I was before the tournament. I didn't understand it at the time, but it was just a matter of regaining the right frame of mind. I could easily read my opponent's movements, a skill I had lost leading up to the tournament, but I wasn't in my right mind before. But clearly I had healed. Shortly thereafter, I resolved to never push myself that hard again. The pain may feel like progress, but all you're really doing is hurting yourself. Quality over quantity. Back when I used to play like crazy, I thought that I'd never improve or achieve anything if I didn't spend as much time playing as possible. Now I realize that the quality of time spent is more important than the quantity. Spending 15 hours a day on something won't ensure growth. Conversely, that much time on something can damage your health. You won't have time for a full night's rest or 3 square meals. That's sure to catch up with you eventually and bring you to a full halt. Whether we're talking games, traditional sports, business, art, hobbies, anything. You can't do good work unless you're healthy. Devoting more time than you can handle is inefficient and unsustainable. You won't be able to keep working at a consistently productive level. It should be enough to make little discoveries that indicate growth or progress, even if they come over a short time. Say you're out shopping, and you find a place selling something for 98 cents that you normally buy for $1. Sure, it's small, but that's progress. If anyone asks you how you've improved yourself today, you can proudly state that you learned how to save 2 cents. If you consider your 2-cent discovery as personal growth that improves your life, that'll give you the energy to look for something tomorrow as well. Conversely, working a 15-hour day and having nothing to show for it sucks. You just get down on yourself and won't stay motivated. What escaped me before is how hard it is to make daily discoveries. I had set my expectations too high and was chasing after too many things. My all or nothing attitude made me think I'd rather quit gaming than just make it a hobby, but ultimately forced my decision. Nowadays, I feel that 3 hours a day is plenty of practice. Making small discoveries in 3 hours is far more meaningful than finding nothing in 15. It's also a much easier practice to maintain. Distinguish between goals and objectives. To keep your effort at sustainable levels, don't confuse short-term objectives with your long-term goals. In competitive gaming, participating in a tournament is a good objective, but a tournament victory is a poor goal. In my case at least, I've never done well in a tournament I just entered to win. A friend invited me to a tournament when I was contemplating quitting games in the wake of the Capcom tournament debacle. My heart wasn't really in it, but it had big money prize and all the games were ones that I played, so I decided to enter. I was only in it for the win. It was another disaster. I was only after the prize, so I was playing not to lose. I was furthermore mentally drained, inhibiting instinctual play. When opponents came at me with everything, I wasn't confident enough to react properly. Pride in your efforts rewards you with the confidence to the match. As I found out, however, focusing on prizes lowers your drive for the game. Lesson learned: don't misjudge your goals. Tournaments are a playground for people who practice growth. It's where they show off their achievements. Once I made that realization, I finally started making continued growth to my goal rather than winning. Games enrich my life by allowing me to grow as an individual, and that's what motivates me to keep on going. Of course, there's nothing wrong with winning a tournament or achieving a certain result as an objective. Objectives can be a good short-term motivation that draws out your potential. Get overly obsessed with that objective and let it become your goal, however, and you'll stop producing and lose the will to continue. Continued growth is the goal. Since I started considering tournaments as simply objectives and made personal growth my goal, I stopped caring about tournament outcomes so much. Win or lose, I maintain a steady drive to keep going. No tournament result is going to change my everyday work routine. Even if I win a world championship, I shift emotional gears right away. I allow myself a day of celebration, but even then, you'll never see me pumping my fist after a victory. Some people will bask in a win for a month or two, even up to a year. Victory gives me less joy than it does some others, but that's okay. I never shoot for a happiness level of 100 through winning tournaments. I'd rather score 60 in my daily practice. 60 is just right. Much lower doesn't foster motivation, and 100 indicates too much reliance. Of course, everyone's goals are different. If you just want to be a star and hog the spotlight, save yourself the time and effort it takes to be truly strong, just chase wins. With the effort I've devoted to games though, I never expect to lose. I have to continuously feed my will to stay on top. Of course, winning is better than losing, but letting your emotional barometer swing too wildly with the wins and losses will hinder steady growth. If you focus on tournament results, you're deriving your motivation from the praise of others in the form of the crowd's cheers. Your strength is the same whether you enter a tournament or not. But what if the sponsor stops holding a big tournament? What if no one cheers when you win? What if you hit an unlucky streak and lose? Luck affects tournaments results, so putting too much stock in them makes it hard to stay mentally balanced, let alone continue to grow. It may seem contradictory, but in my experience, letting go of winning encourages victory. When I enter a tournament now, I just want everyone to see me play. As a result, I'm winning more. Fighting games are as much a mental battle as anything, and players who are too hung up on winning are easy to read and tend to shy away at the last minute. They tend to be more cautious and overly rely on theory. Theory is a good foundation, but not enough to win. Playing that way makes you look like you're riding with training wheels. If you're experiencing happiness of 60 with the discoveries in your daily practice, you know that losing a tournament won't deprive you of that joy, and it puts you at ease, letting you play your game in matches and make daring moves in risky situations. Can you keep it up for 10 years? If you want to continue growing, consider whether you've convinced yourself of that goal. As discussed above, I believe everyone has a limited daily working capacity. One of the criteria limiting your capacity is whether your goal is sustainable. For example, if you decide that you're going to play games for 6 hours a day, how many years do you think you could keep that up? I've heard people going through the pandemonium that is the Japanese university entrance exams brag about studying for more than 15 hours a day. That's great, but how many years do you think you can sustain that level of effort? I'll give you a year at best. If you cram for 15 hours a day, you might temporarily remember enough of what you studied to score well on your test, but little of that knowledge will stick permanently. Similarly, the power we gain from working past our limits is fleeting. Studying 15 plus hours a day is fine as long as you pass the test, but failing despite your efforts can be quite a shock. When setting the right amount of time for myself, I aim for a level of effort I can sustain for 10 years. 10 years is just right. Not too soft, not too hard. Think of it that way, and your capacity for effort should naturally come into focus. The future of the band. What are you living for? Say you're in a band with dreams of landing a contract with a major record label. No matter how hard you work at it, only a handful of bands ever score a big-time deal. Countless bands struggles to make ends meet, only to eventually admit they hit the ceiling and give up on their dream. Few of those who set lofty goals actually attain them. No band is certain to land a record deal. In fact, no one is guaranteed rewards based on effort applied. If the band goes on making music without worrying about whether they'll ever get a deal, we know that they're in it for the love. They can set aside the record deal and just focus on the music. If a band's ultimate goal is getting that record deal, and as a result they neglect the music, they may not recover if their dream never materializes. I know that frustration all too well from my experience. My advice for our theoretical band would be that if they really love music, they should focus on creating the best music they can. No bad can come of that. If all they want is fame, my candid advice is that they should quit now and save themselves the anguish. Even if they somehow land a major record deal out of sheer luck, they're bound for hard times later. In the best case, they might fizzle out as a one-hit wonder and be left wondering where to go from there. Ask yourself why you want your goal. Constantly reaffirm your resolve, whether it be a musician, actor, pro ball player, or anything. Sit down and ask yourself, is that what you really want? Is your desire enduring? The first thing I probe for when anyone wants advice on how to become a pro gamer is their commitment. Would you still want the same thing if you were born 30 years earlier? There's actually a system in place for pro gaming now, but what if there wasn't? If you couldn't go pro and could never be famous, would you still be able to pour yourself into games? The ones that are resolute in spite of that have the disposition to be happy with their choices and won't be swayed by bad results. For the first half of my life, that's exactly the life path I was searching for. Wait for your moment. Say you're a stand-up comic still struggling with your material. You have one go-to gag that always got a big response from the audience, but it's getting old now and the novelty is worn off. You did not intend to build a career on this gimmick, but a talent scout happens to love your gag and offers you a regular spot at a major comedy club in Vegas to perform it. Of course, even achieving short-lived fame on the big stage is a fine accomplishment. Even so, establishing fame in that manner makes changing direction harder than it would have been before you rose to popularity. In many people's eyes, you'll forever be identified by that one gag. Nothing I can say will stop you if you consider fleeting success worth sacrificing the rest of your career for. But in my opinion, you should postpone your debut if you're not ready for the prime time. Not that those who don't put in the work don't deserve to succeed. Rather, if you're not ready, you're setting yourself up for future difficulties. The same can be said for gaming. Maybe you want people to think you're strong, and so you enter a tournament, despite not yet being capable to play at that level. Even if you somehow win a match or two, you won't be able to reproduce those wins consistently. Being thrust into the spotlight before your skills are ready will only lead to misfortune. You're better off waiting until you're truly prepared. Resentment about postponing your debut can even serve as good motivation for you to sharpen your skills. If anything, postpone your debut a little more than you think is necessary. If people talk about how your talents are overlooked, then when you finally find yourself on the main stage, you will have the confidence to put up a good fight. Worst of all is a premature debut that initially appears successful. You risk becoming too pleased with yourself and getting big-headed. In contrast, if you wait longer to make your break, you'll explode into the scene, and having faced adversity, you'll stay grounded. With the right ability, frame of mind, you'll never fail to be grateful to your place or the work it took to get there. Be patient, believing that your day will come. Creating a sustainable routine. While I certainly don't get the same thrill out of it as I did in my youth, I do my best to hit the arcade every day. On the evenings when I don't have an interview or meeting, or have to play someone online, I head out to my favorite arcade in Shinjuku. Some days it feels like a chore, but I do enjoy myself once I get there. I've made arcade visits compulsory. Even as a pro, it's not like I have any regularly scheduled matches or anything, so I have to make it compulsory or else I would just skip it anytime I didn't feel like it. I'm confident that I could skip going to arcade for a year or so and still be competitive, but that's no excuse to slack off. In my mind, creating a sustainable routine is at least as important as changing your perspective on things. Focusing on an objective may trick you into thinking you don't have to work hard every single day. If there are still 2 months until a tournament, say, you might tell yourself that you can afford to take it easy for just this one day, and then the next. Additionally, you may forget the importance of applying yourself immediately following a tournament. Such inconsistencies will throw off your daily routine. I've seen plenty of players that can't maintain consistent effort levels. Many let their efforts wane after tournaments, and others even lose confidence in themselves and quit gaming. If your goals are daily improvement and personal growth, being lax and skipping practice is a dangerous pitfall. Even so, maintaining a happiness level of 60 requires being confident enough to rest when you're not working. Part of keeping your effort sustainable is recharging for the next day. Too many people feel like working hard is just about putting in the hours, but working past your own limits is not going to produce results. Whether it be 6 hours a day or 3, it's better to determine the maximum sustainable amount of time that you can stay focused. Outside of that, have faith in your plan and rest. What's important isn't the amount of time spent, it's keeping up the effort and realizing changes and improvements in that period. Small changes are fine, just be sure to notice them and recognize them as growth. My routine. I generally follow a set routine. Recently, I found that about 6 hours is the optimal amount of playing time. My time spent with games is actually a little bit longer if you include experimentation and analysis, but 6 hours is perfect for actual time playing with others. I used to devote more time to playing. I criticized myself as lazy if I found myself with free time. At some point, I realize that no longer is the best outcome. Downtime is important too. Fighting games are a battle of minds. You can't win if your mind and body are out of balance. Give your mind a rest, and better ideas will come. Besides time spent with games, eat well and get some exercise. It'll help your gaming as well. My schedule is rarely empty. I consciously make plans because I hate sitting around with nothing to do. My daily routine goes like this. 10 a.m., wake up. I keep myself busy until the evening. Some days I'll work out at the gym, other days I'll write articles or attend meetings. It's rare that I have a truly free day with nothing scheduled. 5 o'clock p.m., head out to the arcade. I bicycle to my regular arcade in Shinjuku, which takes about an hour. There, I'll play against the regulars and sometimes get asked to sign autographs or take pictures. 12 o'clock midnight, return home. I pedal back from Shinjuku. Riding the bicycle helps keep me active, and light exercise like that helps me think. I have good ideas all the time on the ride home. At 3 a.m., go to bed. After getting home, I take a bath and do some light research before sleeping. Not wanting to disrupt my balance, I follow this routine without change, even when tournaments are coming up. This allows me to set a rhythm. It makes it easy to distinguish when I'm doing well and when I'm in a slump. It allows me to maintain a consistent happiness level of 60. Stick to your routine in moderation. Having a daily routine is important, but you don't have to be adamant about it. If you make schedules an absolute, it'll instead increase your mental pressure, disturbing your rhythm. Getting too caught up in your routine is missing the point. If a close friend invites you out, it doesn't make sense to turn them down just to maintain your routine. Don't worry about it too much if you end up staying out late. You can sleep a little later than usual or otherwise adjust. Sticking to a work schedule to the point of sacrificing opportunities to socialize makes for a boring life. You'll just turn people off that way. If the choice is between having to work a little to get back into your routine or sowing discord between you and your friends, choose your friends every time. Socializing is essential to me, both as a person and as a gamer. The media likes to depict hardcore gamers as antisocial loners, but that's not me. I learn a lot from socializing with non-gamers. I find value in hearing advice from anyone, even those who have no knowledge of gaming whatsoever. Besides, good company makes the beer taste better. As long as you have the desire to do so, you can learn from anyone or any book, no matter what topic. Lessons are all around us, waiting to be learned. 5 steps at a time. All the time, people ask me how to get better at gaming. The answer is simple. Practice every day. That's the only way. That advice isn't always useful though, so the first thing I normally recommend is to stay focused on what's directly in front of you. If the journey is a staircase, focus on climbing the first 5 steps. Even if it's pitch black, you should still be able to feel your way up 5 steps. Being told to climb a 500-step staircase will give most people pause. You're likely going to give up on the climb altogether before starting. Picture a looming 500-step staircase is enough to drain anyone's initial enthusiasm, so don't look too far ahead. Just focus on climbing those first 5 steps. Once you've done that, climb the next 5, a few steps a day, and you'll have reached the top before you know it. Maybe I'm just not the planning type, but I rarely set big objectives for myself. I just keep grinding away, focusing on what's in front of me, and eventually I reach incredible heights. Better than winning a world championship. Over the course of making small, daily improvements, sometimes I'll hit on a big discovery and feel like I found a unique solution to a problem. Those moments make me happy. They bring me from normal 60 up to 80. Being someone in a match doesn't really do much for me, but I revel in my own discoveries. They're internal realizations that perhaps no one else can understand, but they are satisfying nonetheless and give me motivation to keep going. The flip side of that is not getting too attached to wins and losses. I don't get much pleasure from winning, nor do I get too down from losing. It's nothing more than a result, and I'm focused on bigger things, so I soon forget them either way. It's a kind of mental armor. If you beat me in a match, good job. My greatest opponent isn't my challenger, it's myself. Most players put everything into their match because they are fixated on the outcome. In a match, your opponent is constantly pressuring you to give up. That never works on me though. I would stand such strategies through persistence. I think differently than my opponents. I'm just throwing myself into what I love every day, not concerned with the outcome of individual matches. Of course, you have to be aware of the outcomes in a tournament, but it still doesn't bother me if I win or lose. The whole purpose of matches is self-improvement. If you learn something from a match, it's a good outcome. I'm thankful when a player beats me. Defeat highlights my outstanding issues, and working to correct them is a chance to grow. Big discoveries in my daily efforts to make me far happier than winning world championships. I avoid happiness of 100 under normal circumstances, so 80 is the most I'll allow myself. And it's extraordinarily rewarding. Lessons from the dumpling lady. One day at a period when I was getting bored with the monotony of daily life, a woman I saw on TV said something that moved me. She owned a family-run dumpling shop in Western Japan that had been around for at least 20 generations. She must have been pushing 90 herself. In a regrettably short 10-second interview, she stated in her deliberate cadence that by far the hardest thing was producing exactly the same product every day. Considering how her words applied to my situation gave me goosebumps. This dumpling lady wasn't trying to impart her wisdom on anyone in particular. She wasn't showing off or griping about kids these days. She was just quietly telling it like it is. She was amazing. She is steadfastly preserving a recipe passed down for centuries. Her diligence day in and day out is precisely what keeps her dumplings tasting great. I'm sure she must have had her doubts. Maybe at one point she resented having to take over the family business, thus dedicating her life to making dumplings. But her words depicted emotions that carried her above her hardships. Her words really stuck with me. She made me realize the importance of continuity, that certain things must remain constant. I aspire to reach the same mental state. Maybe we differ in our approach in that I seek constant change, but I too long for some consistency in my own treasure. For me, that meant keeping myself satisfied with small daily changes. If you aim for big changes and improvements and somehow miss your mark, your motivation will nosedive. I don't strive for any kind of dramatic growth, and I don't look to develop tricks or special moves. I'm fine not making any sudden jumps in my ability. Climbing the stairs one at a time is enough. Life with no days off. I of course take breaks over the course of a day, but I generally don't take days off. There are times when I'm genuinely tired and need to rest, but working for the weekend isn't my idea of ultimate happiness. I'm often asked how frequently I practice, and my answer is always the same: 363 days a year. I always spend New Year's Eve and New Year's Day together with my family, and I've never once broken that tradition. I practice games every day of the year except for those two. Back when I was chasing tournament wins, I too wanted a few days off. After putting in the work to attain some result, I'd be relieved that it was all over and wanted to unwind for a while before starting up again. When my long-awaited rest finally came, however, it wasn't enjoyable as I expected. Over the course of living that routine, the work had gradually become a real chore. This underlines the importance of enjoying each day and keeping your efforts at a moderate level, not looking for ways to partition your life into work and rest segments. Moderating my efforts for today, tomorrow, and the day after has kept things pleasant and improved my performance in gaming and allowed me to ascertain my improvements. Work hard only for a limited period in pursuit of some objective, and the objective becomes the end-all. If you fail to achieve that objective, recovery is much harder. Daily effort in acknowledging your improvement makes life a pleasure. For me, this is far more satisfying than working for some nebulous future happiness. Even without any days off, daily life can be a joy beyond words. Daigo's talk about living a life where you don't need a vacation really opened my eyes to something, or just a few things in general. Mostly the fact that I feel a lot of us are living in that kind of way where we know kind of what we want to be doing. We know where our passion's actually at, but the reality of it is that we have necessities and responsibilities to take care of too, and not all of us have the luxury of being a pro gamer or being in some, I guess, dream hobby where we can just do what it is exactly that we love and be able to support ourselves with it. A lot of us have a 9-to-5 where it's kind of like it's okay, or just you may not be a huge fan of it, but you know it's something that you have to do to get through. But also his words about enjoying your job and what's in front of you, even if it's not ideal, that's also something to be working towards as well. It's the fact that in reality we can pour ourselves into anything and find enjoyment in it as long as our perspective is in the right place. It's all about your mindset. You can find growth potential in any activity, but if your brain is constantly in a state where you're complaining, or you just, oh, this isn't really what I want to do, or this is a load of crap, then that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be a load of crap. I think the discipline comes in when we have to really go over our own thoughts or our inner dialogue and figure out why, if I gotta be here, then why am I gonna suffer my way through it? Why not find something in this that can make me grow as a person? Why not see that this situation isn't exactly all bad? Because there's always gonna be another way to look at a situation. And that's something, as time has gone by, that I've learned is very true. And it seems like something that Dingo understands very well too. So once again, Dingo's book continues to be really, really, really good. And I'm looking forward to the next chapter with you guys. See you soon.